Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Yeehaw! It's Christmas morning for me.
Christmas
or is
morning?
it? Or
you
is
got
it?
you got your wish.
I got my wish.
Huge.
I wished upon a star, and I got my wish. But is it the right wish, Bjorn? That's the question. Is it the right wish?
What?
So let's go right into it. We had
Struber is out.
Struber is out. Struber is finally out. A couple weeks ago, I had my rant where I was just done with him. And I had a really big worry that Austria was just going to be like, who cares? He'll finish the season, and then we'll get you a new guy next year. You know what I mean? The pep in their step isn't really big. The pep in the step, New York Red Bulls don't have a lot of pep in their step when it comes to making change.
Okay.
Transfer windows without getting who we need. But they took themselves an extra week, but they got it done. I mean, Struber, we led the club to last place. We have one win in 11 games. So they fired him. And Europe would have been fired 3 weeks ago, maybe even 4 weeks ago. But he finally got fired, along with Ezra Hendrickson, who didn't have as bad of a record, but also was pretty bad. But the bigger question, I think, with both of these clubs, is it really the coach? Is it entirely the coach's fault?
Well,
Either of these clubs. We got Hans Wolf. I'm back, Jax. Hello, Hans Wolf. Oh wow! When they announced him out this morning.
As of this morning, yeah, he's done.
In fact, when you texted me this morning, I didn't realize you saw the news before I did.
I said Struber's out, and then you said, "Oh yeah, okay." And then 15 texts later, you're like, "I hear Struber's out." I'm like, "Yeah."
I named the podcast, but for the last 3 weeks, it's been called Struber Out 1, 2. Today was Struber Out 3, as in Struber Death Watch. That's why I thought you were you're like, yeah, let's talk more of that. I didn't know it actually happened. That's why I changed it from Struber Out 3 to Struber is out finally. He's finally out. So he's gone. I saw the press conference yesterday after the game. He was sitting there depressed. And they're like, how's it going? And he's like, yes, it's a special time for the club in a bad way in this direction and that direction, in his bad English. And then this morning, he left by mutual consent because it was hard for him to live away from his family, is what the press release said.
I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of a whiny press release. No,
yeah, it was a little weird. It was not. It was weird.
It was also clear for me that I wanted to return to Europe at the end of the season, at the latest. It was extremely difficult for me to live here completely without my family.
And then, as a fan, I'm like, "Who gives it? Who cares? That's personal."
I mean,
stuff. Why would we care about that? That's your problem, not ours. Right? Am I right? That's weird.
It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to mention. Yeah,
it's like they should just been like, "We love Garrett, put us up, but we're not winning. We're not in a winning place. We haven't been getting the results we wanted, so we're going to go a new direction." Simple as that.
Or they could have also fired him like 2 weeks ago when, he really looked bad during the whole Dante situation. So, yeah, I don't know. It's unclear.
Do you know who was involved, though?
Presumably he knew that his family wasn't going to be here when he was coach.
Also, why isn't his family here? He's here for 3 years. Move to New Jersey. Isn't that how that works? When my dad, growing up, my dad had to move around a lot, and we moved with him. It's not like he left us. It's not like you know what I mean? If he moved somewhere, I would then move there because I'm his family, so we'd move with him. So if Struber gets a job coaching in New York on a 3-year contract, Would that mean that his wife and his kids would move to New Jersey with him? Am I
Yeah.
wrong to thinking that?
I mean, Ronnie Dyla had a similar situation. He was, I think, going through a separation, and so it's not. I guess you don't know until you're here what it's going to be like. But it just seemed like he just.
But A, that's not our problem, and B,
It's
they're
not.
not
It's
getting
not our
paid minimum
problem.
wage.
And Ronnie Dyla gave it all he had while he was here. Yeah, I don't know. Struber always you always get the vibe of like, yeah, the boss people told me I had to take this job, and I'm not really into it, kind of thing.
Maybe that could have been it, but in typical New York Rebel fashion, Mario Gomez, our old friend Mario Gomez, who's the president of Red Bull Soccer Worldwide, was involved in the decision. I think Mario Gomez, because he has to give the final say and everything. I think so. So that's probably what gave it a week or two delay, because they had to. Oliver Mitzloff and Mario Gomez sort of had to chime in and do their 2 cents, in addition with Jochen Schneider, our sporting director. And then they did that knowing that they were going to place Troy Lesane as our head coach. Troy Lesane was the assistant, the American assistant that Struber hired. It's very interesting. I'll talk about him in a second. But in addition to getting rid of Struber, I think Mario Gomez also they didn't just say we're firing Struber. They said we're leaving on mutual consent, and we've hired Troy Lesane to be the head coach for the rest of the season. That's part of the press release.
I mean, that's another. I had a question about that too. That's also a little bit like. I mean, there's a lot of season left.
Yeah.
You're
No,
just
I'm
being
in
like,
the same
okay,
boat.
we're just kind of giving up on this year, and let's see what he can do. But we're not going to look for anybody else.
Yes, that was my initial thoughts as well. But I watched the press release today, the introduction press conference. And he was a very obscure hire. If you look him up, they hired him last summer, and it seemed like he was hired via a series of interviews, like an old school application hire interview. He was a college player. He played in the lower leagues very briefly. He played for the Wilmington Hammerheads in Wilmington, North Carolina. And then he was a college coach with a lot of success. He had like 80% win rate. And then he went and became the head coach of New Mexico United in the minor leagues, Bob Odenkirk's favorite soccer team. And he has a 30-30-30 win percentage there. So a win tie, like slightly in the winning percentage, but but plenty of ties.
So these
and
are
losses.
modest. We should call these modest credentials.
Modest credentials. But the New Mexico fans really liked him. They thought he was a good man motivator and blah, blah, blah. And then he was hired to maybe he was an assistant at Charlotte or something. But then he was hired to be the assistant at the New York Red Bulls. They just he's not from New York. So they saw something in him, and they hired him to be on the coaching staff. And then Struber and his main assistant, who's also an Austrian dude, Bernd Eiber, I think his name was.
Yeah, he got.
They're both gone.
They're both leaving.
Yeah, he's leaving too. And Troy Lesane, the American assistant they hired here, he's around. So he was given the head coaching position. He's been a head coach before. So this is one of those things where it's like, how they create players? Well, now they're creating a coach, I guess. This is a big opportunity for him. He seemed very well spoken, very smart. I got a pretty good vibe from him from the press conference. But, what the heck? That's just a vibe. What the heck do I know? Who knows? Maybe, I'm hoping, with a wish, like a good New York Red Bulls fan, that he's the next Jesse Marsh. He's like the next high press, very intelligent, good coach. The players will play for him. MLS is a great place for coaches to come. He's also very old school in that in the old days of MLS, college coaches are where they got their coaches from. That's where Bruce and Bob and Ziggy and all those great coaches from before came from. And they stopped doing that because it's MLS 3.0 or whatever. But this is an example of there's probably great coaches still coaching in college. And this hopefully is an example of that. Hello, Daniel Young. Hi. He, him, his. Tom, Hans Wolf, Daniel Young. The fans are here. The party's all here. For those of you listening at home, we're live Monday nights. Join the party. Join the fan cast. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Troy Lesane is his name. He seemed to come off well in the press conference. He said Mario Gomez gave him a vote of confidence, and the reporters asked him about scoring a penalty at the U.S. Open Cup back in 2006, the Charleston Battery, one of my favorite minor league American soccer teams. So we'll see. We'll see. I wish him the best. I hope he becomes that great new coach that we need, that we're looking for. I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, Struber seemed like one of those people who got sent here and he thought he was going to crush it, and he never quite really.
This was his longest head coaching appointment in his entire career.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, especially considering the Bradley Carnell situation. Who, I mean, he's lost a little bit of his shine in St. Louis now, but like they're no longer going to win the Supporters Shield in their initial season. But yeah, anyway, Struber's out.
Troy Lesesne.
It's Troy Lesesne is in. Where you're still questioning the ambition of the organization overall.
Of course.
That's the big question. I'm concerned of the timing, that the new coach bounce is going to hit us square in the face this coming Saturday.
Well, the big question is
when we play the Red Bulls.
The big question is, of course, right. It's good they did this move. This move is like, okay, that means they care a little bit. But 2 weeks ago, the New York Red Bulls, or a week ago, signed this 18-year-old kid from Mali, an unknown. And then Garrett Struber in the press release is like, well, he's going to play with our second team for a while, and blah, blah, blah. And what happens the next day? He starts and plays a full 90 against the Philly Union. And he's like our key player. He has the ball more than anybody. He's just, all of a sudden, he's our new star, this 18-year-old kid. And it's like, for crying out loud, kids can't win anything. Like, we're all kids. The New York Red Bulls is very clearly like a development island for the Red Bull organization. That's like the old criticism. And signing obscure 18-year-olds doesn't help that image. You know, the team. So you got a new coach, sure, but the team needs senior players. You need a mix of players. It can't just be all kids. John Tolkien and Cameron Harper are not going to win MLS Cup this year alone. You know, now, Lewis Morgan is injured. Unfortunately, he's a big loss. Dante Van Zier, is just doing his suspension. Luquinhas is injured. So we do have a couple of more senior players, and it's a little bit unlucky because we have 8 of our players are injured. Like, we've got 8 key players out with injuries. But that's also on us for roster building. We don't have any depth, and most of our players are kids. So is that the coach's fault? Is that Jochen Schneider's fault? Is it Dennis Hamlet's fault? Is it the philosophy's fault? It's just like
a lack of ambition.
A lack of ambition is still the message. So it's not just Struber. They did it right. They replaced the coach. Hopefully this new coach is energetic. But, let's take a look at that roster. I want to see some roster improvements over the next season.
I mean, similarly, really, though, you could say all of these things about the Chicago Fire, right? Like the same kind of thing.
Well, they have the second most expensive player in the league. No, we do not have. In Sheridan Shaqiri. He's the second highest paid player in the league.
There's some ambition, but it's misplaced. It's poorly executed.
Yeah, I mean, with Ezra Hendrickson, I think it's his first job. But like with Chicago, Frankie Klopas is still there. Frankie Klopas is the Uli Hoeneß of Chicago Fire. He was their player, then he was their head coach, then he was their sporting director. He sits on the bench. I think he's an assistant coach now. What's he doing over there? Whatever's going on, Frankie Klopas is involved. He's just there. And Frankie Klopas has almost no winning titles under his belt. Talk about no ambition.
Unlike Uli Hoeneß.
Unlike Uli Hoeneß.
All right.
So Chicago goes through owners. As a New York Red Bulls fan, Chicago Fire fans, we do have a kinship of very much. And Tom here is bringing it up too. Marsh and Armas end up. I'm glad you brought that up. Marsh and Armas are both Chicago Fire legends, in addition to New York Red Bull legends. But with Armas, who knows? Bless his heart, I'm not interested in him being a head coach with us. Assistant coach, sure. But maybe he'll line up and become the new Chicago head coach. Who knows? But Jesse Marsh, as much as we want him, as much as I want him, Jesse Marsh still has one assignment left in Europe. If I'm Jesse Marsh's manager or agent or whatever, I'm sure Jesse Marsh knows this is what he's preparing himself to do. Jesse Marsh,
He's got one more shot. He gets one more shot.
He gets one more shot, and this is the shot. He has to pull a David Faulkner, or I think the Daniel Faulkner did this as well. He has to coach a championship club. Like if Nottingham Forest next year, he has to go coach Nottingham Forest. He has to coach them in the championship and then bring them up into the Prem.
They won today. They may stay up. Might be Leeds. Well,
he's not going to.
Leicester.
He's not going to coach Leeds again. And the Leicester thing obviously fell through as well. Unless
Southampton, he had contact with Southampton, and they're definitely going down.
But it needs to be anybody, Luton Town, whoever. He needs to coach a championship club, and he needs to take them up to the Prem. That's his next assignment in England.
That is not an easy thing.
I know it's not an easy thing, but it's real. That's why they tried to hire him to be, what's that German word, Feuerwehr trainer? The Leicester, I think, tried to get him to say, and it was also Southampton. They wanted him to be their quick
fix guy.
Quick fix guy. They ended up getting Sam Allardyce, which is a specialty. And Jesse Marsh said no, because he wants a long-term project where he gets the season, the championship, and brings them back up. So that's what he wants, and he might have to go straight to the championship for that. Middlesbrough, Luton Town. One of these clubs.
They both still have a chance to do it this year.
Yeah, but do you understand what I'm saying? I mean,
I understand what you're saying. I think that's a tough assignment. I think that's in a way harder than staying in the Prem. This championship is so competitive. It's such a long season. It's such a crapshoot. That's a tough one. Yeah,
but who would hire him? Right? Like he's not. He coached 2 top flight clubs. RB Leipzig for 3 months and then Leeds for 6 months, right? Like he doesn't have a great like that. You know what I'm saying? He has one more assignment left in Europe, and that's that. It's get a small club and then bring it up to the Prem. Then he can maybe stay in Europe. But if that doesn't happen, then he's coming back home because Europe. I think the options in Europe are done.
Then it's coming home. All right.
Tom, great shout with Norwich with Josh Sargent. 100%.
Sure.
100%. Something like that. Or maybe in the Bundesliga, he goes back and he does the same thing back in the Bundesliga.
The American spine working out super well for Leeds. Not at all.
Well, Leeds fired Jesse Marsh and hired Javi Garcia. Now they're worse off than they were under him. So
they definitely have not improved after Jesse left. I don't know. I'm not sure what.
They've gotten worse.
To make of that necessarily.
And Brendan Aronson got way worse for some reason. I don't know what happened to him. Tom, honestly, Marsh does not have the pedigree.
Brendan Aronson probably ran a little out of gas, I think.
Yeah,
because it's a long season in England.
Yeah, and jumping from Austria is a big jump. Honestly, Marsh does not have the pedigree from Tom. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. If he stays in Europe, he gets a small club and he brings them up to earn pedigree.
He gets one more chance to prove himself, and 100%. Then Chicago definitely bigger issues than the coach. I thought Ezra Henriksen seemed to do a good job. He had them competitive. They lost. They transferred out. Gaga Slonina and John Duran. Is that his name? Yeah, and didn't replace him. Shaqiri, he's up there in the Rafa Marquez Hall of Fame. Of failed MLS DPs. Him and Douglas Costa can hash it out for biggest current DP bust. And
Douglas Costa. Oh yeah, well, who am I thinking of? Sorry, I'm thinking of like Diego Costa, the old Chelsea forward. I'm like, what? No, Douglas
Diego
Costa.
Yeah, he plays for Wolves now. Yeah, no, Douglas Costa, LA Galaxy.
Yeah, LA Galaxy.
Another failed. We were arguing a couple weeks ago about how much of a bust he was. You were defending him, but I think whatever. Anyway, Chicago still in trouble.
Yeah.
Chicago's still in trouble. The Red Bulls probably also still in trouble.
Chicago brought in Shabilko from Philly Union, which was a good get. But again, the Chicago Fire roster needs a little bit of help. They need a real sport director. They need someone who really knows how to design that roster right there. And Chicago Fire, just as a team, it just underperforms on and off the pitch week in and week out. They haven't been great, and they weren't even great when Schweini was there. Schweinsteiger brought him back to the playoffs, but he played as a center back because the organization's like, he's the only guy who knows how to play on the back, so we'll put him there. It's like, yeah, that's like using a Ferrari to lift rocks.
But that was
it's like hire a center back.
That was one of their more successful periods, though, of late, though. And I mean,
True,
not
but
just
it goes
because
to show
of him,
you how
but
damaged it is. Because it's like you have Schweini, you're putting him out of position just to finally win. It's like who's doing the roster construction? Get a real center back. Like keep him as holding midfielder. Use him up top. I don't know. I mean, I could rant all day about that. But Chicago Fire, I'm also curious what their ambitions are. They have that owner. They have that new owner, which they're excited about. But, I don't know. Chicago Fire, I'd like to see a better sport director. I'd like to see a better long-term plan. It can't just be an Ezra Hendrickson. You got to figure out what players are you signing? Like what kind of – if you're competing against guys like LAFC or St. Louis City AC, who has 3 guys from the Bundesliga to be your skeleton, it's like, who are your guys? It can't just be Sheridan Shaqiri, who's more obsessed with working out in the gym than he is playing soccer, I mean, he's the ultimate mercenary. He was like that in Europe.
He likes to work out?
I mean, he's a brick house. He just works out and works out and works out. He's a little brick house. Even if necessarily that body isn't good for soccer, he doesn't care. He just likes to lift weights. So
it's got a linebacker constitution.
He should go play American football is where he should go.
Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, or be a kicker, right?
Be a kicker and
go play for the Bears.
Kicker and special teams.
I would love for him to go play for the Bears. That used to be a thing back in the old NFL. There were some NASL players who later became kickers for NFL teams, and they would bring in like Eastern European soccer guys to be kickers back in the day.
Or Morton, what was his name? Morton Anderson, right? He was a soccer guy. Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah.
Shaqiri should do something different.
But going back to Marsh, I would love for Marsh to come back here and be a coach. I would love that. But
he's gonna get the national team job, no?
Well, that's another thing. I'm wondering if he wants to do what I said. He wants one more shot in Europe first, But I wouldn't be surprised if this summer he took the U.S. national team to take him to the World Cup and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens. So that development, but him going back to the New York Red Bulls, that's a pipe dream. Tom does not want him as U.S. men's national team coach. Tom says no.
I don't think I agree with you. I don't think I don't think he'd be very good. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't bet against it.
I mean, we could do worse. But the other thing is, then who? If it's not Jesse Marsh, it's going to be just some obscure coach they find from Europe, right? It's got to be. Who could very well be? I don't know. Who else would it be? Maybe Jim Curtin. I don't know. But
Jim
speaking
Curtin
of a little soccer,
we'll see.
We're about to say Jim Curtin.
I don't think so.
I mean, let's pretend that Matt Crocker, by law, had to hire an MLS coach to be the U.S. men's national team coach. Who does he hire? Who from MLS is the next national team coach?
Peter Vermees.
Oh, you think?
I mean, you just made up this insane stipulation
over Jim
that he
Curtin?
can only. Yeah, I think so.
Peter Vermees, I do not get Peter Vermees. He won one MLS Cup title 8 years ago. Great. So Caleb Porter's got way more than that. Why not Caleb Porter?
Caleb Porter, I'm not a fan of Caleb Porter.
Well, I'm saying, like, why would Peter Vermees be our next national team coach? He's won
I'm not
nothing.
I'm not saying he should be. You're saying who should it be from the current crop of MLS coaches?
Yeah, but you picked Peter
obviously,
Vermees over Jim Curtin.
assuming it's not going to be Bruce or Bob again.
Right. Yeah.
So Tom wants Jim Curtin in that scenario. I don't know. I don't think. I mean,
what about Steve Cherundolo?
I think, Steve Cherundolo probably has a better case than Peter Vermees for sure. Peter Vermees is, he's always talked about in that context. He's definitely run SKC into the ground at this point, but I think that also has to do probably with his this double role. He's the sporting director and the coach, and he's been there for too long.
Oscar Pereja, how about that?
Oscar Pereja.
I don't know. Right? I mean, if you had to ask me between Oscar Pereja and Peter Vermees, I'd probably pick Pereja, honestly.
He's underachieved in Orlando too, no? I think, wouldn't you say? I don't think. I think they're going to go international. I think it's going to be Jesse Marsh or somebody non-American. That's my guess.
Sam Allardyce.
Big
Sam.
Sam Allardyce. I mean, we're not a Premier League podcast, but it's just amazing how Sam Allardyce hasn't worked for 2 years, and in his introductory press conference,
he's like, I'm as good as Jurgen Klopp.
He's like, this job is
Yeah.
beneath me. Basically, he gets a job after 2 years, and then explains to everyone how that job is really beneath him, and it's a disgrace that he doesn't get offered real coaching jobs. So
what if David Wagner got the U.S. men's national team coach? He's been linked before, but he's coaching in Switzerland right now or whatever.
He's American only he's in passport
in name only,
right?
Yeah, and I think famously when USA played Canada and he played, the Canadians filed a complaint because they're just like, this dude's not American. They're like, he played against us. I think they had to. I forgot. I think they filed a complaint. They had to go to FIFA court, and they had to dig up his passport or whatever.
Barely speaks English. This guy.
It's okay. Boris Milutinovic never spoke English. Didn't stop them then. But anywho,
anyway, will be. I guess we're just at the beginning of that whole, because we're gonna find out right in the next couple months. I still think. I mean, at this point, it seems a foregone conclusion that Berhalter is not going to be back, and I will continue to point out that how bad I feel for him.
Can I also offer? So I got my, what's it called? Stefan Schnitzel Damas.
Oh boy, he's rubbing the forehead. Podcast listeners.
Okay, hold on.
He's rubbing the forebrow. The brow is furrowed.
Okay, so Jesse Marsh.
There's all kinds of things happening in the bald beyond the bald dome of Stefan Schnitzel. The wheels are turning. What is he going to?
Two predictions. Two Fußball Genie predictions.
Oh, here we go.
One, Jesse Marsh is going to become the head coach of Luton Town and take them up to the Prem, which I already talked about. That's one. Two, Greg Berhalter is going to take over a Dutch club. Let's say maybe Groningen, even though I know they got relegated. He's going to take over a low to mid-table level Dutch club.
He's going to go second division?
Well, maybe not. He'll go to a low to mid-level Dutch club, and he will coach in the Dutch Eredivisie next season. That's my Stefan. So
Berhalter to Holland, March to the championship. All right.
You heard it here first, folks. Stefan Schnitzel predicts Fußball the way Fußball. Smash that like button, folks. Hulk smash. Right, Hans Wolf.
That's right.
Smash that like button. So those are my predictions. So real quick, New York Red Bulls Philly game was kind of a meh game. Philly only beat us on what was not a penalty. I don't know if you saw the highlights to this.
Yeah, that was soft. I agree.
Very soft. And then they sent him, again, I don't want to, you know me, I'm hard on the refs. They sent him to the VAR booth to be like, you're going to want to take a look at that again, which is VAR code for that was wrong.
And then he goes,
looks at it, and he's like, I'm right. It's like, no, you're not right. There was a little contact, sure, but then he stepped twice and then threw himself on the floor.
That was crazy.
So, honestly, what if that point might be a blessing in disguise, because that would have been a scoreless game, which might have saved Struber his job, maybe. So, if that's the kiss of death for him, then so be it. Other than that, I don't have much to talk about as far as the field goes. NYCFC had a rough game against Charlotte, didn't they, Bjorn?
Yeah, I don't want to really dwell on that for too long. I mean, it was definitely a better performance than the week before in Toronto. The Toronto game was just completely listless, with players yelling at each other and flipping each other off within the squad, and both of which did not start, by the way. I don't know if there was probably a disciplinary angle to that. Neither Tallis nor Chanot got the start. And the first half wasn't great either, but in the second half, the team really tried and came back and looked like they had a chance. But then, I mean, we're just bad at defending set pieces this year. I think given up 14 goals, half of which from set pieces, which was a strength last year, but is not this year. And Richie Ledesma, who did not have a great game, with an own goal that finally lost us the game. I mean, this one was a little. I mean, it was a better performance than Toronto, but in a way, it was always more frustrating to watch because it was like this Charlotte team is not great, and it seemed like we should crush them, but we did not. And there's just a one-dimensionality to the offense right now, where there's just no one's running behind, so it's kind of predictable. The center backs kind of the whole defense always sees us coming from a mile away, and then we can't defend set pieces. So that's not a good combination, and I'm worried. I'm worried about this derby. Struber is out. There's a coaching change that often comes with a bounce, and I hope we don't get caught in that, because we have a rough stretch of road games ahead of us, and even the home games are tough. We have Philly and New England coming, and so this Charlotte game definitely seemed like one where we one of the easier ones on paper. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, two things. One, I saw in a recent tweet that the Charlotte game experience is actually very expensive. Food and drinks in the stadium apparently are as much as they are at like LAFC games. And it's like, come on, Charlotte, you're a big stadium. Why is it expensive? Cheapen it up. Follow your brother in Atlanta. So I just want to say poo-poo the Charlotte upper staff for that. A and B, Troy Lesesne, the New York Red Bulls head coach, has 2 games coming up. Tomorrow against our ultimate rival DC United in a do-or-die Open Cup match. And then on Saturday against NYCFC, the Hudson River Derby.
Yeah.
Derby. So that's a trial by fire for a new coach. 2 of the biggest games, 2 of our biggest rivals right up top.
Well, we've been bad on the road, so
we've been bad at home and on the road, so it's okay.
We'll see. Well, yeah, we'll see who can outbad who can outbat each other. I don't know.
Well, Troy needs to figure out how to score goals. That's what he needs to. Defensively, we've been tight. It's how do we score goals, and that we're just totally hopeless on. So I don't know if Troy Lesesne has a magic wand or something. He did bring that up in the press conference that is his priority, so he knows so we're working on the right thing. I do know that. So it should be a fun game. You'll be there, right? With 20 of your closest friends.
I'll be there. Yeah, I'm bringing a crowd. Yeah, because it's my birthday. So
your birthday, and maybe you have one.
It's gonna be fun.
New York City is terrible on the road. Yeah, there you go. And also, are you gonna? I was gonna say, maybe. I don't know if it's too early of an announcement. You might have 1 or 2 extra Schnitzel Boys shirts on you. Would you bring those with you or no?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to bring them to New Jersey. No, I don't think so.
Okay, yeah. Maybe we'll wait till the next NYCFC home game.
Yeah.
But anywho, so that'll be a fun game. On that, other news and notes. San Jose played LAFC at Levi Stadium, which was a nice touch. They moved to the big football stadium where San Francisco Giants play. 45. It was an announced crowd of 45,000, and San Jose won. They beat LAFC to offer them a surprising loss. I think it was one of their first losses, if not first loss of the season.
Yeah. I mean, they played a big Champions League game against Philly midweek, so
LAFC on to the CONCACAF Champions League final.
Against Leon. That Leon Tigres game was crazy too. These were 2 pretty exciting games.
I mean, fun times. I look forward to LAFC versus Leon. I think I'm out of town that weekend. Unfortunately, can't go. But it should be a fun final. Maybe 2 years in a row, MLS champions. We'll see. Sporting Kansas City
I would
finally
say they're
got their
favorite.
first. Say that again.
I think I
LAFC.
would put my money on LAFC. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about it. SKC got their first win finally. How long does Peter Vermees have left over there? Speaking of firing and hiring coaches and managers,
Well,
is Peter Vermees finally gonna?
if he wins in Seattle, that's going to help him.
Well, he
That's what
did.
he
He
did.
did win in Seattle. But he's got to be, if not this season, at the end of the season, I think SKC needs to do a little bit of a renovation. And, New England Revolution, Toronto played each other, the Battle of Bruce and Bob. All these nice photos of them being best friends, hanging out, pointing at people. It was fun. I like seeing that. I love the old American godfathers of Bruce and Bob and Siegfried Schmidt, rest in peace. Cool. And then, I think that really wraps up MLS. So if you have other MLS stuff you want to talk about. Oh, the Galaxy dumpster fired. That continues. They lost 3-0 to Colorado.
Lost at home to Colorado. Yeah,
3-0.
Finding new 3-1, but finding new lows. Yeah.
The fan groups are fighting each other. The office is fighting with the fan groups, and the players are losing. And was it Chicharito, Ricky Puig said something needs to change, is what he said. I wonder if he means Greg Vanny. I wonder if he means Chris Klein. Whatever's going on over there.
Well,
Kevin Cabral.
Chris Klein has said, right? You were saying he's leaving at the end of the season. We don't make the playoffs.
Step down.
So it's all going well then.
Kevin Cabral showing off his thing. He's like, "Hey, remember when you got rid of me? Boom! I think you got a brace against the LA Galaxy to show your former team what's what." Hans Wolf, I'll be in Cincinnati this week.
You're going to Cincinnati. Respect. Good for you.
Then off to Köln. Tell us what. Are you going to go to a Köln game when you're there? Maybe. That'll be fun. Köln versus Bochum's on Friday.
What?
So,
no.
Bochum's in Köln on Friday, right? Am I wrong?
No, Köln. We're playing Augsburg at home. Köln.
What am I thinking of? Köln's playing the other team. Köln's playing Hertha.
Hertha. Yeah.
Köln's playing Hertha on Friday.
That's on Friday.
That was on Friday. But yeah, that'll be fun. You guys have Cincinnati. That's going to be a tough.
Yeah, depending on what kind of lineups these teams field. Yeah, it's not going to be. There was some debate on Twitter among NYCFC people. One person saying, we should take the Open Cup seriously. It's a great chance to win a trophy. And somebody else was saying, who cares about the Open Cup? We need to beat the Red Bulls on Saturday. So, yeah, we'll see. Don Garber does not care about the Open Cup.
Was that person Don Garber?
No.
Hans Wolf, I read on Sunday. Sorry, I misread. So it's Cincy on Friday. Don Garber offered some harsh words for the U.S. Open Cup. And I always take what he says with a grain of salt because he's really just a suit. But yeah, I mean, U.S. Open Cup is a thing. It's for the fans. It's a great way to get silverware. It's big for the lower level teams, maybe more than the MLS teams, sure. But it's a title. It's a trophy. Seattle won, I think, 3 years in a row. That was a big deal for them. When Toronto or Vancouver win the Canadian Championship, that's a title for them. That's a big deal for them. I don't know. I love the U.S. Open Cup. There's really not much to change about it other than to get maybe some sponsors and maybe get a little more.
Well, they do need a little coverage. More money, and I mean, in Europe, the lower level teams always host, which would be more fun. There's a lot of stuff they could be, but it all comes down to money. They need an influx of cash because a lot of the time, the lower division teams don't like to host because it's too expensive for them because they need a big stadium if a bigger team comes, and so there's not enough money, and so. That's really where and then because of their geographic restrictions, a lot of times more MLS clubs play each other than you'd want, and so on and so on. So there's lots of things to improve. John Garber said he's doesn't like the product. His teams are not happy to be a part of it, and I don't know if this was hopefully part of an incentive to change it. We'll see.
Yeah, but Don Garber only cares about MLS, really, like their bottom line. Like he's, CONCACAF Champions League, we love it. I'm sure he'd give two craps about it. He just wants he's trying his fifth iteration of a USA Mexico League this summer alone.
I don't think that's necessarily.
I think he's
true.
saying U.S. Open Cup, like he probably wants to buy it pretty soon and turn into some MLS's back style tournament or so. He's got his ideas. He's got his marketing ideas ready to go to try to change it. You know how Don Garber be. You know how Donnie G be. Well, there could be.
You're not a fan, not a fan of Don Garber.
Well, I'm so when he offers thoughts like that, to me that sounds very manipulative. That sounds very much like, oh, and the way it is now, I don't like it. We have to renovate it. We have to turn it into something else that's more profitable for us.
Well, he was
and that means he could care less about the FA Cup. He could care less about the Pokal.
This was in the context of him talking to somebody who is in charge of it. So there is, I think right. That was the incentive. The idea was, let's make it better.
Let's make a deal with Donnie G. Okay, but we got U.S. Open Cup coming up. Okay. Yeah, we got MLS. We got U.S. Open Cup. DC, Cincy. The big game over the weekend. I think we got the Monterey Bay team coming here to LA, or the LA is playing them, coached by former coach Frank Yallop, or former LA Galaxy coach Frank Yallop. So, it's fun. I'm all about it. It's free on YouTube. Right. Sure, and the grand prize winner gets $300,000, which pays half of one of your players' salaries, I guess, So the incentive to actually win the tournament is on the lower end. So I think they just need – and when U.S. Soccer did the TV rights, Turner's like, you can keep the U.S. Open Cup. We just want the national teams, which is what happened.
Yeah, so they have some streams. I don't even know if that's since how I'm gonna watch this.
It's on Golazo. It's on CBS Golazo. Right, if it's not on that, it's going to be on YouTube for free. It's one or the other. Cool. All right, you had some thoughts on the U20s?
Well, there was some debate, right? There's the U20 World Cup is coming up, and it used to be just youth players, and now there's a bunch of there's a bunch of under 20s people who are contending for that roster are playing in MLS, and this is not during a FIFA window, obviously, so it's up to the clubs to allow these players to play in the U20 World Cup. And there was some debate. Caleb Wiley of Atlanta, he is allowed to go, and he was saying how he feels bad when people aren't allowed to go. In Chicago, there was some question whether they would let people go. Jim Curtin says his players.
Well, the big thing in Chicago was Ezra Hendrickson did not let his two players go. He's like, I'm keeping them. They're not going to the tournament.
Yeah. So
who knows?
So what do you think?
About what?
Should people?
Yeah, they should be allowed to go. I didn't know it wasn't an official because it's a FIFA tournament. Let them go. I don't know. Let them go. That's my thoughts. Well, I want the best U20 teams playing on each other. There is evidence to suggest that a good core group of folks that do well in the U20s move on to be a strong core for your senior team. We had that when the Mexico won the Olympics. They went on to sort of be that senior team. I think Portugal had that gold generation where they won the U17s and the U20s first. Then they became a core of that senior team that did so well that went on to win the Euros. Germany won the Euros, the U21 Euro tournament. And a lot of those guys went on to become the 2014 World Cup champions. Mm-hmm. So, having a core of our best and brightest get to know each other at a U20 tournament is a good thing, I think, for a national team program, I would say.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, my counterpoint is, well, culturally, different countries treat these tournaments very differently. In Germany, the U21 is big, the U20 not so much. Right. They don't care about it. My counterpoint would be to say that the goal for all of these youth teams is to get a pro job. When you have a pro job, that's better. It's better to be a professional playing games than being in a U20 tournament. That would be my counter perspective. You've already made it. This is supposed to be a showcase for up and coming talent. If you already have a pro job and you get minutes, you're a starter week in and week out. it's basically like saying if somebody gets I don't know what the analogy is here, but if you're getting hired, if you're getting hired as a young person, work for the in the White House, and then you say, "Oh, can I take 2 weeks off because my college debate team has a tournament that I want to be part of?" And they're like, "What? This is behind you. You've graduated." I think that would be my counterpoint.
Okay, so that's a viewpoint towards making it a showcase tournament, is what it is.
Well, I think that's how it
Right.
is. That's what it is, and I mean, that's what Jim Curtin was saying. Oh, people, it gets heavily scouted. There's an opportunity. Everything gets heavily scouted now. You don't need
Right.
this. We're now in the world where there's a lot of data collection,
It's
and
all streamed. Yeah.
these people get found. It's not like you need you if you are a professional in a professional league. MLS also is not the janky league that it was like 15 years ago.
Hmm.
I think this mindset still stems from this idea of like, this is all we have. The national teams are all we have. And because in Europe, I think it goes without, in Germany, I don't think it goes without saying, like, if you're a professional who's a starting player, you don't go to the
Stay to your
U20.
club.
Yeah, you stay in your
Yeah,
club.
I see that. I know in the past too, with our youth national teams, like with our Olympic team, Pulisic and Reina and all our best players were under 23, but none of them were on the Olympic team. The Olympic team was just made up with another batch of people that were under 23, like the next batch or the guys that are on the
Right.
reserves and the
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
these youth teams. They're showcases for people who don't have other opportunities. If you're already in a pro squad, that's it. You've made it.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess for me, it'd be nice if our players went to a FIFA tournament and won a FIFA tournament together as a batch of players, and that, like I said earlier, and that's like begins a core, like they know each other,
Yeah.
and that begins, and they go to the U23s, and then when they play senior tournaments, they all know each other they all have tournament experience together. That would be maybe the other side to that. But we're at a point now where U.S.'s best players are all senior players playing for the senior national team. They're all very young. The U20s over the next 8 years might just serve as a place for maybe one or two guys to come from.
And I'm sure it's a
That's
fun.
about
I'm
it.
sure it's a fun thing and a great experience. I get all that. I mean, I'm sure it's a fun thing.
Yeah. Okay. So you are perfectly fine with MLS players not going, just staying and playing for your club.
Yeah, you've got a you got a job. It's fine. You've made it. You're already ahead.
Looks like we've made it. We don't have to go to the U20s. We're
Nope.
in MLS.
Exactly.
Looks like we made it. Hans Wolf, you are so correct, Daniel. On the road has been hideous. Daniel Young, U.S. Open Cup is a
People
meaningful
are.
trophy that teams can compete to fill the trophy case, have a chance to play in the CCL next season. Yeah, absolutely. It's for the fans. I
Why
think for the
not? Why not
suits,
win
like
it?
Don Garber, they look down on it. For the fans, we love it. But the suits are just like the American suits are like, we need to squeeze more. Like this whole Leagues Cup thing is starting to come up. I don't know. The Leagues Cup thing is very interesting to me. I'm very curious how that's going to turn out because MLS just has to pause. The Mexican teams are off season, and also it's like we have the LAFC is about to win the CONCACAF Champions League, so they're the North American champions. What's Leagues Cup all about? You know what I'm saying? I'm just like,
What is it all about? Like, I mean,
other than a cash
you want me
grab,
to?
what's the point of the Leagues Cup?
Well, it's to engage to raise the profile of MLS among the Mexican fan base in the U.S.
Every year help that?
What?
Doesn't us beating them in the CONCACAF Champions League every year help with
I
that?
think that is also helping a lot. I think that's true, but it's also, I mean, I feel like those have been always so fun. Like the when NYCFC played Tigres in the Champions League, the Campeones Cup. It's like, a lot of people show up for these games. So I think I'm down with the Leagues Cup. I don't know, obviously it's a new format and we're gonna we're gonna see how it shakes out, and if the like it's the first one. So, but I think it has the potential to be super fun.
All right, Hansel, I'm really upset with this massive disrespectful MLS snobs have against U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah.
Do a lot of MLS, again, I think that's more the execs. I think the fans are all about, you mentioned in the fan chat how people like screw Open Cup. We got Red Bulls in the weekend. Yeah, that's a little weird to me too.
Somebody
right?
said that on Twitter. It's like, well, I mean, I think both things can be true, right? I think it's cool. I like the U.S. Open Cup. I watch a lot of it. I think it's a great opportunity for the lower division teams.
Yeah. The U.S. Open
to show their stuff. I think both of these things can be true, and it also has a lot of room to improve. I think the format could improve. I think just more money would help these teams put it on better venues. You know, NYCFC plays their home games at Belson Stadium. Bruce Arena last year was completely put out that he had to coach on top of a parking garage in Queens. He was not a fan, and I think both of these things can be true at the same time. That it's a cool thing and it deserves a little bit more money, attention, etc.
No, 100%. I love it. And cup tournaments come with quirks. You know, they can't. It's a like Heath Pierce was talking about on the podcast this morning on his CBS podcast when he played for Hansa Rostock. The Pokal games are so much fun because he'd go to some small little village right off the train, and he'd play in their tiny little stadium, and it was a big thing for the village, and it was just a lot of fun, and that's like part of the quirk of the cup. So U.S. Open Cup's the same thing. Go play on top of a parking garage. It's fun. Just want to say we got big news here in the chat for our friend and our Schnitzel Cuff, Daniel Young. He got a new job.
Congratulations. That's wonderful news. Yay.
Especially in this job market. He works for New York City, the best city in the world. He's a municipal worker.
He's an official government worker. That's fantastic, Daniel.
And you've had some tough times, Bet. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm really sorry to hear that. You've gone through some tough times here. I see. You've had some family members pass away since 2016, COVID and whatnot. So it's good that you're back on your feet. It's good that you're working.
Congratulations.
And you got yourself a new family here with us, a little schnitzel corner of the world here. Congrats on the gig, Daniel.
And we'll have a T-shirt coming your way.
That's right. A little secret for Hans and Daniel. Next time you're at NYCFC home game, maybe pop over to Bjorn in this section, and he might have a little T-shirt for you.
We'll make an announcement at time. All right.
At time. Cool. That's U.S. Soccer. On that great news, on the wonderful news, I believe that's our week in U.S. Soccer. Oh, we got the Derby this week. Bjorn, how you feeling? What's the score?
I mean, I'm looking forward to it because it's my birthday and I'm bringing a bunch of people. I am not feeling super optimistic.
Are you afraid of Troy Lesane? The mighty Troy
I'm afraid
Lesane.
of our set piece defending. I think we may be just the team that you've been waiting for, potentially.
Well, who knows? What if this Derby turns around and starts an undefeated streak for us? That'd be nice. That'd be nice. It'll be fun. We'll see. Plus, we got U.S. Open Cup midweek. Good luck in Cincinnati. I'm hoping the Red Bulls can take care of it.
Not optimistic about that either.
Yeah. Well, but that's the life of being a fan. You just can't guarantee yourself results. That's the fun of us. All right, everybody. Bye-bye. We got merch. Schnitzel Boys. Etsy shop.
Thank you,
merch. Check us out. Schnitzel Boys merch on Etsy. Like, subscribe, smash that like button. Tell your friends. We're on the podcast universe.
Good night, Hans and Tom and Daniel.
And Hans, have a
always.
safe trip to Germany. Enjoy yourself. Eat a currywurst for us. And tschüss. Bis nächste Woche.